latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Apparently, millions of Brits are not buying what Keir Starmer was selling when he visited the White House a few months back and talked about his commitment to free speech. And Britain's always had free speech and always will, and something that he prides himself on and the country prides itself on. Well, a couple million people took to the streets yesterday in part in a reaction to Charlie Kirk's assassination, but the larger issue, one that Charlie Kirk stood for, was the right to speak your mind. And as we have documented in disturbing fashion, there are speech and thought crimes that are routinely prosecuted in the UK, most notably recently, the Irish comedian arrested at the airport for some tweets, posts on X about trans. And Elon Musk made an appearance, remote, big screen, interviewed by Tommy Robinson, one of the organizers of this free speech rally in the UK. And this is what Musk had to say about the topic.
Well, I'm of primarily British heritage, British ancestry. I want Britain to be greater than it ever has been. I want Britain to remain Britain. I think there's something beautiful about being British. And what I see happening is a destruction of Britain. Initially a slow erosion, but a rapidly increasing erosion of Britain with massive uncontrolled migration, a failure by the government to protect innocent people, including children who are getting gang raped. It's unreal. The government has failed in its duty to protect its citizens, which is a fundamental duty of government. This has got to stop. There needs to be massive government reform in Britain. And the people need to be in charge, not some bureaucracy that doesn't care. Well, I believe you can't get to the truth of things without freedom of speech, without active debate. There's so many on the left that want to just crush debate and put people in prison just for talking, as you were, just for speaking their mind. The essence of democracy is it should be a government for the people, by the people. And in fact, this is a government against the people and not for the people. This is why everyone is gathered here today, is something's got to be done. This is unacceptable.
Yeah, free speech and secure borders is a good start. For more on all this, Stephen Bucci joins us. Served America for 3 decades as Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official. Now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thanks for being with us as always.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Important subjects you're touching on here.
Yeah, well, they're important across the pond in the UK, and they're important at home, too, after the assassination of Charlie Kirk last week, of course. And what Western Europe has been telling us about their commitment to free societies seems to be running afoul of the viewpoint that a significant plurality, if not a majority, of their citizens think.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? But look, the governments are so tied up in knots over, what we in the United States refer to as the woke culture, the whole trans thing, trying to normalize that to the point where you can't disagree with it. You can't point out things that government's done that don't make sense. They arrest and give higher sentences to people who question the prosecution of criminals over what they give the criminals, even when it's things like you mentioned, gang rapes. It's insanity, and they're making good their threat that some police officials made towards American citizens, as you see with that Irish comedian, that if you use X or one of the other social media platforms and say something that they don't like, if you show up in their country, they're going to arrest you for it. That is unacceptable. I cannot believe that our government in Washington right now will stand by and let that happen. But, we're not necessarily always going to have this particular government. So that deterrence protecting American citizens could easily evaporate if we had a government here that agreed with those guys in the UK.
Well, it's interesting, just to get your sense, you're a student of history. Jesse Kelly, who's a popular podcaster, was asked by a listener if the shooting of Charlie Kirk moves us closer to a right-wing dictator. And Jesse Kelly said yes. Half of my mail is from guys saying they're ready to hit the streets, and if my left-wing hate listeners think Trump is bad, he's an absolute puppy dog compared to what could be coming with a right-wing dictator. And so if you lefties want to find out how bad it'll be for all of us, then keep doing what you're doing. That's what Jesse Kelly said. First of all, I take issue with the description right-wing dictator because there is no such thing. That's an oxymoron. As soon as you give into totalitarianism, you're not a conservative, which is what the left uses. The left uses the term right-wing to describe conservatives. So you should stop using their language. Jesse Kelly should brush up his lingo. But that notwithstanding, you have people like Jesse Kelly, Rod Dreher, who I have great respect for, suggesting, we may be moving down the road to something like a Spanish Civil War, the fascists versus the communists.
I don't see that right now. One, because in our country, the communists are the fascists, not the other way around. Look, there's a lot of people here that are upset. But again, contrary to the narrative you hear from the left and from the mainstream press, is the right has not up to this point shown a propensity for lots of violence. I mean, we get upset, we get mad, we talk about it, we point out the possibility of it because, as they worry, we have a lot more guns than they do. And most of our people know how to use them, unlike the majority of people on the left. But the left are the ones who are doing the violence, not people on the conservative side. So this fear that, suddenly conservatives are going to rise up and try and put in a dictator, I don't see that. There might be a few people all the way that are, the nutty far end of the right, which is not the majority of conservatives in America, that might be thinking that. These are the same kind of people who said, the military should just do a coup and, throw President Obama out. No, we shouldn't have. The military should not be involved that way in politics. But people have to stop breaking the law and then having their politicians, the left in this case, justify it for them. They need to be prosecuted when they break the law. I don't care whose side you're on, but the law is there to protect our constitutional rights, not impinge on it. And free speech, conversations, even with people you disagree with, is kind of the hallmark of our country, the American Republic's democracy. We got to do this right, and the violence needs to stop, but that's the left's part of it right now that they refuse to own up to, and it refused to take responsibility for.
What do you make of Pete Hegseth telling Pentagon staff to look for people within the Defense Department of War, within the Pentagon who have posted mock Charlie Kirk's assassination or condoned it in some way. The report from NBC News says some people have already been relieved of their jobs because of posts on social media. Do you have any problem with that?
I do, if they do it in the context of their job. There was a few that I've seen that are people in uniform. That's against the rules. That's not a constitutional right thing. That's a regulation which has the force of law within the military, that you can't do that. You can't do politics in your uniform. It's against the regulations. And if you've done that, you need to be punished for it. Free speech part, we have free speech in our military, but you need to understand, if you have on your X account or your whatever the other social media accounts that you might have, if you have on there that you are, a colonel in the United States Army in this job in the Pentagon, you've just violated the rules. That's the same as doing it in your uniform. So if you want to talk crazy and do this stuff, you need to get yourself a different account that does not identify you as a government official. That's a different situation. And businesses have the right to do that too. If the business thinks you talking like a maniac saying, yay, yay, Charlie Kirk is dead, hurts their business because you have on your account that you are associated with that business, that's their right to do that. People need to understand that. The left does it all the time to people. They're the ones who invented the cancel culture, and now that it's bouncing back on them, they're kind of upset about it. But people need to think before they hit send everywhere. That's just the way social media works.
Well, I mean, one of the things, though, too, is I would argue in support of it, whether it's the public sector or private sector, is, somebody makes some of the remarks that you've seen, that we've all seen, that person is not emotionally stable. I don't want an emotionally unstable person working for me, particularly in a sensitive or not particularly sensitive position, like as a representative of my brand, my agency, my company, or just because I think that person is a threat to the workplace because of their instability.
Yeah, some of the medical people that have put on there that have made these comments and have lost their jobs over it. If I'm a patient and I talk to my wife in the hospital room about my politics and the nurse hears it, and suddenly the nurse is not responding when I push the button to come in because she doesn't like my politics, that's a firing offense. Last time I checked, if you're there to do medical care for me, my politics should not be a factor in it at all. But these people are not thinking before they do these posts, and it's an indicator of prejudice. It's an indicator of bigotry. It's an indicator of a lot of things. If you think the people who disagree with you deserve to die, that's not a big confidence builder if that person is one of your medical practitioners.
Yeah, to say the least. On another note, I wanted to get your take on the Israeli strikes against Hamas leaders in Qatar. Last week, Bibi apparently had a tense call with Trump because Trump did not like that choice that Bibi made. What's your perspective on that decision, that strategic decision by Netanyahu, and sort of our relationship with Qatar? Do we have a full appreciation of who the Qataris, I mean, in terms of the heads of state, that family, that ruling family for the last 4 decades? Do we have an appreciation for who they really are? Or are we being a bit Pollyannish about them?
No, I don't think we're being Pollyannish. Everybody knows who they are. They know where they stand. They know the things that they do that are beneficial for us, and we know a lot of the stuff that they do that we really disagree with. And look, Netanyahu was not surprised after he did that strike when President Trump was a little testy about it. He knew that was going to happen. President Trump, if this was something President Trump would have been totally in agreement with, it probably would have happened a long time ago. The fact that it's taken this long to go after those guys tells you that Netanyahu has calculated that in, and at this point, he and his advisors made the decision, we've got to strike now. We've waited too long, and we know the Americans are not going to like it, but, it's our national interest, not American national interests at stake here. We'll have to work on fixing things afterwards. And I think that's what they're doing. I think the calculation will turn out to not have been a disastrous one. It'll cause some tension for a while, but I think President Trump will realize the Israelis are a lot better and more important ally than the Qataris.
Okay, and so you don't buy the sort of the handle that you're seeing in the international commentariat that Israel's winning the war but losing the world? You don't buy that?
No, not totally. The thing I saw this morning that the majority of the General Assembly in the UN is supporting the two-state solution, is condemning Israel. That's not like that's a big change.
No.
That's been like that forever. So, no, I don't think they're losing the world. Look, the Palestinians and their press buddies and everything else have been winning the public affairs war around the world since this thing started. The fact that a country or a group of people can do a terrorist attack like they did on October 7th and have everybody feel sorry for them and tell the people they attacked, oh, not only should you not go after them, but you need to feed them and you need to meet all their needs. And if you don't, you're the bad guys. That's why the Israelis could give a rat's patoot about what most of the world's press say and what most of the world's governments say. They know they're fighting relatively alone, other than maybe with us and a few other supporters here and there. But if they don't, their country will be gone. So they're not going to just stand by and take it.
Speaking of Islamist terrorism and those who enable it, what happened to the radical Islamist attacks, terrorist attacks on American soil? Why did they subside after I guess, I don't know, the first maybe when was the last time? First 10 years after 9/11, we had terrorist attacks, obviously significant, horrific terrorist attacks on this soil inspired by Islamist extremists, and we haven't had that for, it seems to me, the better part of the last decade. Why?
In my opinion, because we totally ratcheted up our intel, our military. We went on other people's soil and took out terrorists when we found them there. Sometimes we asked for permission from that host nation. Most of the time we did not. We made the interest-based decision that it was worth the tension it was going to cause to take those people out to protect our interests and our people. Gee, sounds a lot like what Israel did with making the decision to bomb the Hamas leadership on Qatari soil.
Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer, top Pentagon official, now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thanks as always.
It's always my pleasure. Look forward to talking to you next week.
And Stephen joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630.